Okay.
I hit the red button, but nothing's happening.
Oh, come on.
You gotta
Doesn't
learn
red
this.
need to stop?
It is now.
All right. Failure.
Okay, the time is 5:33. We'll call the meeting to order. Those here, the three commissioners, the chief, Kathy, and the deputy chief, and two people on the building committee. And I don't know if we want to start with the building committee, so that you guys don't have to hang around. That would be my thing, but
You're running the meeting, so.
let's do that, because I don't want you guys to stay around for the whole thing. I wouldn't want to stay, believe me.
Thank you.
So where we're at with the committee meeting is we had 2 meetings with not enough people attending the last 2 weeks, so we didn't have a full quorum. With the report's probably about 90 to 95% complete. Now that's where the concern is looking at the timeline of the meeting coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to have a station committee normally scheduled next week, so we can get a final, but there would not be an opportunity unless we did a special meeting for the commissioners to be able to discuss the report in public, because we can each review the report, but we wouldn't be able to give input to one another without meeting with a posted meeting per se, to be appropriate.
So there wouldn't be time for us to meet.
To review and discuss it, correct, before the Monday, the big meeting.
The big meeting, the
Right.
district, yeah.
We could each review it. Definitely, one of the things for the commissioners to decide on how we want it presented, if that's the case. Some concern we had on the station committees, we definitely wanted the presenters to be someone not affiliated directly with as a fire commissioner or a budget committee member or a firefighter from the, so we actually have 3 members on the station committee that would fall in that category, just to keep that kind of separation of roles. I think is probably more receptive than having someone that's directly. And 2 of them are here, Caitlin and Kevin Kate, and then Lisa Martin is the 3rd one. So depending on how we would want it absorbed and presented, because I think this year, my understanding is that we're just presenting the options to the public, that this is where we're going, to see if they're on board, that we could possibly continue forward and next year present an actual plan for funding. So this year is more a census or a polling. I think that's how the school district did it for their multiple choices, is a polling of the public that will be present to see about going forward.
So you got somebody that actually is going to present it. I have no problem with somebody presenting it. I mean, it's a good idea to bring it out so the public knows what we're doing. And, you know, to give them some input in case they got any questions. I mean, then during the year we can review it, I mean, as we go, but it would be a good idea to bring it up anyhow.
So where the station committee planning was, the last time when, it would be 3 weeks ago, I think, is when we met with, we had enough people, we talked about having a really small PowerPoint of some of the pros and cons from the report. So it would be something very simple of that, kind of talking about where we are, so the overview of the 2 stations, and what we reviewed and stuff like that. And then from there, as I said, I think definitely a separation of the roles is probably one of the biggest things that will help the public to kind of consider it neutrally.
And there again, it's a good idea to bring it up this year, just to let them know what we're in the process of doing so we can really make a decision next year. Because if we wait until next year and bring it all on, chances are it's just going to,
Right.
they're going to think that they just want this.
Right. So
I'm in favor of that. I have no problem with that.
what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to update the district on where we are,
The efforts.
what's happened in the past year. And then, I guess, looking for the guidance. Because you guys may be going down this road, and the public may go, no, we don't like it, and now you have to
Right.
make a new path.
And that's some of what we had discussed too, is this is really a polling of the public to see if they're even on board with it, or if they're just saying, give up. I mean, that's the big thing this year is to,
I don't think, no, we can't give up, I mean,
agreed.
There's gotta be a solution somehow. And there again, you know, we can give them all the options and tell them, you know, we're working on the best one. And let them know that by next year, we will come up with a solution.
Yeah.
But anybody who's got any input from the public, it's a good idea to bring it up.
Okay. So I think going forward from here, we have a station meeting on the 10th, which is next Tuesday. Pending your solicitation too, we probably can put out a finished report to the commissioners at the outcome of that, or a 99%
I
report.
think so.
So we could come out of that meeting and then submit a report to the commissioners just to look through it and get a feeling for it, so that we're not blindsided the Monday.
Okay.
Unfortunately, so if we were able to put that out Tuesday, Wednesday could look at it and read it. If there's some glaring concerns from the commissioners, we would have to post a 24-hour notice to be able to discuss it. If something really jumps out for like Friday, we would have to, that Wednesday, we'd have to do that 24-hour posting for the three of us to get together if it's something glaring. If there's not, then we can go right into the meeting on Monday based on each reviewing. And I don't know how that sounds to you guys.
No, that sounds fine. If you get us a copy, you know, we can look through it. I mean,
So we'll send that out Wednesday morning,
Yeah.
and that will give a good 24 hours to absorb it and still posting time if we needed for Friday as a potential.
is it better for us to post a meeting, say, for Thursday now, and then we can cancel at last minute? I don't know the legalities of that.
That can be done, yes.
I think
I
it's,
cannot make Thursdays though. Not this Thursday.
no, not this Thursday.
Needed, I couldn't.
It would be the 12th or Friday the 13th.
I could do next Thursday.
But Thursday the 12th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what we're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
I could too.
I can't figure it out. I don't know what you.
Okay. But we'd have the committee and that
Yeah.
if there's concerns, because obviously if the commissioners have a concern, we'd want some committee members here to help answer questions on.
Yeah, I won't be able to be here for that
Okay,
one.
so that would be one, but we would see.
Would you be able to be here for the 13th?
No, I'm there Wednesday through Friday.
Okay.
Where are you going?
DC. That's where my headquarters is. Yeah.
Or you don't get to go to DC.
It's
We
not
got
that
to
much
go
fun.
to TN. Tell Northfield.
I can be.
Okay, so you'd have a couple of members here at
Okay.
least. So we'll tentatively put in for the 12th,
The Thursday, yeah.
Thursday the 12th. And that's only if there's glaring concerns or a reason to meet.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, then we'll work on, and so we'll talk about at our meeting also a little bit of the presentation as well as when we come out of that, just so that we have a product. And then we'll possibly be able to send that product up too for review as well.
Okay.
John, were we thinking of doing the PowerPoint slides during the meeting itself on Tuesday? Was that part of what we were thinking?
I think that's what Lisa was talking about, we were trying to build. What did the commissioners think of that?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, the more we know, if we ever get asked a question at the district, at least we'd have some information. I mean, I don't go in there blind.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why I definitely want the commissioners to have the report. But how do you feel? So the commission, what we had talked about with the PowerPoint, and just keep me on track if I'm off, but was current station conditions, just kind of what the station is for the shell, built and all that. The property down there we were talking about, because the report kind of leans more towards the Park Street as the now, in the immediate now. So it kind of talks about that kind of stuff, and like a little bit of our equipment we talked about, just where we stand now, and that's what we're trying to house.
And did you put in there actually the advantages and disadvantages?
Pros and
certain
cons of
things?
the.
Yeah.
We did pros and cons of the different charters,
Okay.
and we can actually do a slide of the pros and cons of each one. I don't think you got.
Pros and cons of what?
5 different charges.
Charges. Oh, I thought you said charters. Right.
I might have,
Sorry.
but,
You did say it, but I know.
so
you meant
that's
it.
why.
Okay. Just threw me off, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So, yes, charges. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does that sound like a plan for you guys?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Great.
The report isn't that long.
No, it's
What is it?
6 pages, I think.
Six,
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Plus
we
2
add in-
pages of appendices.
And then we still have to add in some photographs.
Yep,
So we might end up 12 pages.
yep.
So if we have 12 slides, that's not gonna take a long.
Right.
The presentation part won't be long, perhaps there'll be, hopefully there's questions.
That would be good to solicit where people want to go.
Would we provide copies of the report to the
Public.
public for the annual meeting?
I don't know, it might be a good idea to have a mini, I'm not saying you pass them out, maybe
Like
if they want,
draft on
yeah.
it or something like
Yeah,
that.
if they wanted to look at it, because some people might want to take it home and look at it and study it or something like that there. It's a good idea.
One of the things that has been kind of underlying all of our discussions has been public involvement. And trying to get feedback and input from the public. And this was seen as our first opportunity to do so. To introduce, the work that we've done over the past year, how we got to where we ended up. But then, assuming that we move forward with some type of a plan, engaging the public input, we felt would be important in getting them to buy in and hopefully, approve the plan at the following annual meeting.
It's like anything else, what, and it's just like a person, it all comes down to financial money. And you need to get the best we can for what we can afford.
Right.
So,
And that's where the committee really landed, and Chief, thanks for sending your memo about how, of course, as your focus on the service side of it, a major con being, increased response rates. But really, I think the group members were really focused on the finances.
because that's the only way you're going to sell it.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
we've been
we can be
through-
transparent about that in the
Yeah.
presentation.
I mean, I've been around here for 40 years. And they've been trying for the last 30 years to get a fire station. And it all comes down to the money, Pat. So,
What's your thoughts?
Just had a
You're
quick,
quiet.
no, I just had a thought. Are you gonna have a quorum next Tuesday, based on whatever time you have because it's town election day?
One won't be there. I know that for a fact. Kevin Waldron, I highly doubt would be over here at 5:30 because he's going to be over at
Right,
North.
I don't know what time the polls open.
7:30, I think they close, or 7.
They close at 7.
Seven, okay.
Yes.
I will send out an email encouraging as much as we can to have 5 people there.
Is that a quorum?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, for us. We have 9.
okay.
And that's what happened 2 weeks ago. We had 4 people there, so we really couldn't. We identified kind of brainstorming things, but we couldn't change anything in to finalize it because we didn't have that extra person. Someone had to stay late at work.
How dare you pay your bills?
My boss is not the nicest guy sometimes.
So that's pretty much where we're at with the station.
okay.
Any questions from you guys?
No, I haven't done that. I mean,
None yet.
Okay.
see how it goes.
All right. So
Have you met with the moderator to see how much time he's gonna give you?
I talked to him about it. He's said 10 minutes is probably.
yeah, that's probably really all we need.
Okay.
But I don't think if there was a lot of questions from the public, I don't think he'd shut that off.
And will it go at the end with like kind of the other business to discuss section?
Might be at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Beginning might be better just for,
Participation.
Public
just,
available.
not
Yeah, a
people
lot of
wanting
people
to get
get up
back
and walk
out.
out.
Yeah, once the issue that they were concerned about gets addressed, they walk out. Yeah, that's true.
What do you guys think? You try for the beginning?
I would. I mean, like I said, if you don't, even if people walk out.
So we
So
talk to Ken
that's
and
what I
see.
discussed with him at the beginning. and
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
He was agreeable to that.
Okay, then we already got the answer.
As far as packets for people, we have a copy of the budget and a copy of the warrant articles on a table when they first walk in. So if you want that included, just give me the
Copy of the
information and we'll
report,
make,
we can
and we'll make
make that available.
copies of the report and have that up there as well.
It's a lot of pieces of paper.
I don't know how to say it. I heard you say price. If we, I don't think it's advised to say any type of price at this point because we don't know.
Oh, no.
No, we don't have
even
anything
that.
at all.
Okay, I thought I heard you say price
Nope.
and I just thought.
No, the only thing that I think is of any cost involvement in this is, I think in our budget, we put in there some engineering funds. I think that's.
Well, that's fine, no, that's fine, I'm talking about cost of the building, and
Well-
I just imagine, people are gonna say, well,
We haven't sought or determined
Yeah,
costs for
it's so
anything.
general, like we make some assumptions that like keeping it on a property we already own, like Park Street, is gonna be less expensive than buying property. But
Right.
there's no number, no dollar
Yeah,
figures.
we haven't gone anywhere into that because it's just right now, does the public even want us to consider that, or do they want to consider back up elsewhere?
Yeah.
Yep, so.
And there's no way to get prices until we decide what we're gonna do.
no,
Exactly.
it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
I don't have anything, you two don't, as part of the committee, or even chief, I'm sorry. All right.
All right, if you guys wanna go, if you wanna hang around, you do whatever you want.
Wanna stay? Come on, Mr. Kate. I know you'd like-
I've been going since last Friday. I think I've gotten a total of about 14 hours of sleep.
Thank you very much for coming
But
out.
part of it was fire related. My Janice's nephew graduated from Brockton Fire Academy last Friday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I saw that one.
He was pinned by his dad, who was a district chief in Boston, accompanied by his uncle, who's also on the fire service in Brockton.
Yeah, I saw
There's
some of
actually
those
two
photos.
uncles who are on fire. No, yeah, two uncles who are on the fire service in Brockton. So we didn't get home until 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday.
Been up to 6, right, so I have to go to work.
I never went to sleep, really.
All right.
Okay, we can move on now.
Any public comment before you go?
No.
Well, I see there's nobody here from the public, so we can move on.
Public is left.
Correspondence, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Nothing there. Chief's report.
Included in your packet, the operating budget for the 2019. We ended up expending 89.4% of the budget, and the budget is 100% through the fiscal year, and the books have been closed for 2019, and they have been audited. So the audited unassigned fund balance currently is $562,058. The total apparatus and equipment fund through February is $1.5,499.88. Ambulance revenue through February is $69,579.91, and that's about a little more than $8,000 over where we were this time last year.
So we are up this year.
Yes. Any questions on that? The fire prevention report, also including handout. There were 86 fire prevention inspections in the month of February. A lot of that attributed to the annual inspections at the Tanger outlet. It's still a pretty busy month anyways.
We have to do each, don't you?
Ready to move forward?
Yep.
Okay. The run report, also included in your handouts, and for the month of February, we had 147 incidents, 84 of which were EMS in nature, equating to 57% of our total incident volume for the month. And the engine last month responded to 28 EMS and MDA incidents.
Okay, I do have a question on that.
Sure.
The incident report you sent us, I was looking through it,
Yes.
and I believe it was for the month of January. There was 17 calls on there.
I should have sent you one for February.
I don't think I don't know if it was, I think it was just January. I think there were 17 on there.
No, January.
Was it,
January 1st through, excuse me, February 1st through February 29th.
oh, well, yeah, but I was talking, you sent one with all the times and everything on it.
Last
You
month.
emailed it to us.
Remember I requested.
Last month?
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have that.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow,
Um,
needless to say, there was 17 calls on there for a lift assist.
Yes.
Is there nothing we can do about that? I mean, that's, to me, that is taking away somebody's ability that's ill or needs help for us to go up there and do it. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. All I'm saying is that there's a limit to after a while. You can't go up there every time and,
I understand, and I know what you're talking about. We have had internal discussions about that, trying to find another avenue to help this individual out. And if you'll notice that our frequency to that address has gone down. So that's about all I really can say about it.
because like I said, there was 17. I mean, I counted them. Maybe there was 18. I didn't get them all, but I thought that there was 17 or 18 of them. And to me, that is putting, by doing that, if somebody is critical and needs critical help, it puts them in more danger. Because and there again, I'm not saying be a bad guy, not helping the guy or anything like that there, but God, I don't know, people, I guess they don't think sometimes.
So, over the course of the year and over the course of my time here, we have residents of the community, the fire district, that,
Higher usage.
well, yeah, they're doing spurts where they require our services quite a bit over the course of a short period of time. And sometimes some last a little bit longer than others, but eventually they all go away.
I think-
And new ones come about.
Well, I
It's-
think
it's just a-
sometimes people get in the habit because they feel as though, well, if they did it once, twice, 3 times, that's their job. And I don't know if you say anything to them, say, look, we're more than happy to help you when you really need the help, but I don't know.
So,
To me,
yeah,
it just,
we do have those conversations with them.
yeah, it just, somebody could need you, maybe have a heart attack or something like that, and here we are up there, and
Still, the problem is when they dial 911,
I understand
we
that.
have to go,
And I
no matter
understand-
what.
I understand
They're
that.
really responsive, what their real
And you
need
can't
is.
deny him. I wouldn't say deny him, but, maybe offer him, there must be something out there, assistance.
So we point them to services that can help them, and usually, sometimes that's helpful, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Believe me, we're addressing it.
Well, it's not only that, and, it makes the rate, well, there's 17 calls right there that are really not emergency calls. They're assisting somebody.
Mhm.
That's basically what you're doing, and that drives the calls up. And there again, I'm not saying it ain't a call or anything like that, but it just hurts when people see stuff like that.
Sure, well, whether it's a call, whether you determine it's an emergency or not, isn't the factor. It's what the person picking up the phone determines if it's an emergency or not. And then we go and we get there and we have to assist them one way or the other. And the reason it's a call or an incident is because we end up going there and we end up doing
And I
something,
understand
doing
that.
work
I understand that.
to remedy the situation. So, maybe there's really very little we can do once they dial that number. And, but we do talk to them and we do point them to services that are available to them to help them through the situation and alleviate their desire or need to pick up the phone and dial 911.
I mean, the other part is they are residents of the town too, and so.
And I understand that.
So, I mean, you definitely have some people who use the facility, use the resources more often, but they may not have other resources nearby to help them in those situations too. I mean, I don't know the case of this one, but I know that you could have that out there where they just don't have other, but they have the community resources that you educate them on, and maybe they take them up on them.
And sometimes the community, other community resources that you think would be available to them aren't available to them as well. So there's a number of reasons why something like that happens, and we try to address it and try to make the situation better for that individual or individuals, but in the end, we still have to go there sometimes. And sometimes it's multiple times before things change.
Well, it's like anything else, though. I mean, I guess if you were paying for that, if every time we went there, we charged for that, I bet you wouldn't see it as much. And I understand that you'd never do that anyhow. Of course, I would never let that happen. But all I'm saying is if every time a person used the fire department or the police department, whichever, and they kept abusing it, if they got charged for that after a while, you'd see that go away. And I'm not saying we should do that or anything like, but all I'm saying is sometimes people take advantage of things like that.
So we do have a category in our billing structure to bill for stuff like that, but we haven't. I think it's $100 or $150 for,
Nuisance calls or something.
well, no, I wouldn't call it a nuisance call, but it's a service call.
Coin charges on it.
Yeah.
What's it
So-
called?
It's treat and release.
Treat and release is what it is, yes. So if we go there and we treat them in some manner and then not transport them, they can actually be billed for that service.
Only if they call though. So if I do a health and welfare call for a family member, and they get there and you say no, we wouldn't be able to because I made the call. But if I made the call that I want help and then change my mind, that's when you could. Okay.
Right.
Right. All right.
Okay.
Anything else on that?
No.
Out of curiosity, if there was a second call on that address, let's say you get a call at 12 o'clock for that address, at 12:01, you get a higher priority call, so to speak. Do you still have to go to that one first, or does that other one
No,
take
we
priority?
can prioritize calls based on this information that we're given, and we can switch things around.
Yeah, so you gotta,
We've done that before, and we'll do it. The shift captain can make those decisions on the fly anytime he feels it's necessary. Okay. Moving on to overlapping or simultaneous calls for February 2019. That report is also included in the handout. We had 29 overlapping simultaneous calls for the month. That equates to 20% of all incidents for the month of February. Of the 29 simultaneous incidents, we responded to 24 of them. We received 12 mutual aid ambulance responses for the month. We responded mutual aid once in our ambulance. We received 8 mutual aid engine responses in February, and we responded once mutual aid in February with our engine. Any questions on that?
Do we cover Canterbury on 93 at all?
Some of it.
Cover Samerton too, don't we?
No, not anymore. We used to.
We did the other night there.
Well,
It was right on the border. I saw it.
Yeah, we used to cover same thing in Canterbury on automatic.
Oh no, there was an accident on Sunday.
Well, there was one.
There was no emergency people there yet at all, and there was a car. I don't even know how it got into the woods. There
You
was no.
stop and do first aid?
No, there were other people stopped. There was like 8 cars stopped already.
Because there was an accident yesterday. I'm up by the bridge. Right around 5 o'clock.
Oh, yeah,
5.
yes.
It was just open line.
Yes.
It was in Samerton.
Oh, yeah, for that area, yes.
Do we cover that, or is?
Well, the property line's so crazy over there, like
Yeah.
parts of properties right off Route 3 are in.
Do you both respond then, or?
Because a lot of times the callers have no idea where it is.
If they don't say a specific mile marker, or say, I'm kind of near this, or kind of near that, and 911 try and pinpoint itself.
Well, everyone thinks that the mini golf course is in Tilton, and it's in Samerton.
Right.
It's the car dealership, they have that little wedge, that eyepiece that is in Tilton, so it's in Samerton.
Yeah.
Very bizarre.
So anyways, any other questions on that? I'll move forward. Center Street, the boiler broke and we had to repair that.
What did that roughly, I haven't checked all the reports, do you have a rough estimate of how much it?
$700, I believe. It's in the bills.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten to two of the package yet.
And then on Park Street, we installed 2 dedicated 20 amp circuits for the vehicle chargers. What was happening is that all the chargers were on one circuit and the circuit breaker kept tripping, and sometimes the engine was dead, or the ambulance was dead, or the tanker was dead because of the parasitic loads on the truck. So that happened all the time, so we remedied that situation now. The engine committee recommended Sutphin, as I told you the last month, as the vendor for the new engine. And we're working through the final details for the not-to-exceed price for that engine at this time, and I haven't received it yet from them. The SCBA committee, we already talked about that. They've made their decision. We're going to be using the Mass State bid for the contract, and once that is voted at the district meeting, we'll be placing that order.
How long does it take to get them?
2-3 months. Depends upon their cycle at the factory, where they build some and then they do other things and then they go back to SCBA's and stuff like that. But 2 to 3 months probably.
Can you compress it? I'm sorry.
A new compressor as well.
In that same time frame?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of pre-work for that compressor. They've surveyed the site, had the electrician in to make sure that the electrical needs would be met and all that kind of stuff. So we're ahead of the ballgame with that. We're just waiting for the vote, and then we'll.
And all that's in this price?
Yes,
Everything we need,
everything,
compressor and everything?
everything.
Okay.
For one compressor, one for each station.
No, just one.
It's at the station.
It'll be at Park Street.
Or Park Street.
We don't have room for it at Center Street. Fire department radio system, I don't know if you've driven by there, but the construction of the tower is finished at Spalding, and we're waiting for Eversource to connect the electrical to the building. I expect that soon. I don't know when exactly. I mean, Eversource hasn't given me a date, but our project manager said that they should be in there soon. Hopefully, within the month, that project will be all done, except for the groundwork, the finished groundwork, where we'll be putting in the fencing, the finished grading at the site, and putting the culvert in.
So that culvert, when you're going up, I don't know the name of the road,
Shed Road.
Shed Road, there's like a big field on the right,
Yep.
and then there's like the gully, and there's like, I don't know, 20 foot, whatever it is, wide.
So you're on Spalding Road or Shed Road?
I was trying to figure out where.
Shed Road goes up a hill.
I have to look.
Where are you coming from?
Northfield.
Chicken Road or from Bay Hill Road?
I was up on Bay Hill Road, I made a left on Spalding.
You
Spalding.
Okay,
You went
yeah,
back.
so you're on
Yeah.
Spalding. That is the access to the tower. You have
That
to-
isn't? Or-
No, you have to
oh,
go
okay.
to the intersection,
Okay.
bear right,
Left.
and you go about,
Don't you go left and down the hill?
no,
All right. No, I just wanted
To get back down, yeah.
because I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense to have a culvert there, because I'm like, it made sense, but it didn't look like it was an active spot, so I was confused.
yeah, so
And
if you go visit, if you actually go down Shed Road at a point about 300 feet from our site, it turns into a Class 6 road.
Okay.
And so we're working with the Northfield DPW. They're requiring us to put that in there to prevent the washouts and stuff like that, so. So the money for that is included in the budget. So we're just waiting for our contractor, Mark Hubbard, out of Northfield, and Andy from the Northfield DPW to, it's really Andy's call when he wants it done because of the ground conditions and stuff like that. So whenever he wants
He
it
might not be
done,
able to get heavy equipment up there right now because of the fleet restrictions.
I think the town can do whatever they want.
They can.
Yeah, but then you gotta repair the road if we break it.
Yeah.
You think they'll, it's not gonna interfere, I know it's a class 6 road that goes down through there. And it's only, I don't think you can get down through there.
Oh, you can. I've driven the
Really?
whole length of it a number of times.
Really?
Yeah. It's washed out in a lot of spots, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it in my car, that's for sure. But the SUVs handle it just fine. Just, handle it with care and go slow. You can get through there.
Let's see.
Let's see, where are we? Personnel, we hired Zach Emmett to fill the career firefighter vacancy. He started on Monday. He was a per diem firefighter from Ashland. And currently working on the fire station project committee, as you know, always working on call company recruitment. And
How do we get a chance to meet Zach?
so
The next
we
meeting.
can bring him in at the next meeting, or maybe the awards banquet, which would be April 2nd, Thursday, April 2nd, I believe.
It's nice to meet.
Yes, it is.
Who's shift is
He's
he?
on Captain Ames' shift.
I don't know when all the shifts go, but at least I know.
So Captain Ames actually worked yesterday, but he's on his two weeks of working days, just days right now to get orientation.
Also, he just works like so he's kind of working a little bit with everyone.
So he gets from every shift.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because I might be off on Thursday, so I can stop in Thursday.
You absolutely could.
Sure.
I'll ask Kathy what's going
You brought up awards banquet on April 6th.
Second.
April, thank you.
Thursday, April 2nd, 5:30 at Lockmere Country Club.
on. Oh, there's one on my calendar.
Okay.
You put that on the
Yeah,
calendar.
we'll be sending out
I will put that
invitations,
on there,
and
yes.
Don't forget that.
we're gonna require an RSVP like the week before.
By the 25th, please.
Okay.
Because we're serving meal.
March
At 5:30?
Yes.
Yes.
And if your commissioners are gonna be there, you're gonna post it?
No,
What day's on Tuesday, Thursday?
it's an award ceremony. We've never posted it.
Well, I just wonder if you have more than 2 commissioners present.
We've never posted it for the award
Where's it?
ceremony.
Where is it? The green side?
Green side.
Green side.
Okay.
Well, actually, the function
What day's the
is
second
on
one?
the other side of the green
It's a
side
Thursday.
restaurant.
Gotta
Oh,
get it off
at least I
by.
know where to park my car.
Yes, park it on the, like on the golf
Figure it
course
out from
side,
there.
not the restaurant side,
Oh, on the golf course.
on the golf course side.
Even better.
Not golf course.
Hopefully the golf course will be open by then.
That would be great. It was 3 years ago, it was open in March. We'll see. And that completes my report for the month.
Oh, you're not gonna talk about the new ambulance on this page too?
We're just planning all that stuff right now.
Okay.
That'll be in next year's budget,
And that's a replacement for which one?
A2.
That's an A2 replacement. Okay.
Okay, we did the, commissioners report. The fire station committee, we did that.
Budget.
Old business. Who is the speaker for each article?
Which one? Yes,
Warrant articles.
yes.
You'll have a copy
And I'm
of it.
sorry I didn't bring a fresh copy of the warrant.
Maybe we do need to meet on that Thursday. Was it in an email that you sent us?
The warrant, yes. I can tell you what each article is, though. I have it right here. Okay, so the first article that needs to be spoken to is the operating budget, Article 4.
I'll speak to that one, since it's probably the easiest one to speak to.
Actually, you were on the budget committee, or
Yeah.
you were the liaison.
Warrant Article 5 is the apparatus and equipment replacement fund.
Hold on.
Well, the budget committee did that too.
I'll do
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Warrant Article 6 is the new fire engine.
Well, I mean, we can speak on it, but I mean, you probably know more than all of us.
Well, I do, I'm sure, I'm quite sure of it, but usually the commissioners,
The commissioners are the ones that.
I'll take it on, because I can come in the Thursday before and sit with the chief and go over just to get.
but I can certainly answer any questions that are posed at the meeting. And we'll have an amended, we're gonna put an amendment forth to reduce the number that, to expend on that.
Are we gonna have it in time? We have to.
Yes.
We can, I can amend it at the meeting.
No, I know, but it's not gonna look good if we're amending, like, none
No,
of the
I will-
commissioners know what you're talking about.
You will have the information beforehand, but
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and then you can, once you speak to it, you can make the, you know, and it's brought to the floor, you can make the amendment.
Yeah.
Warrant Article 7 is to change the purpose of the apparatus and equipment fund.
I'll do that one.
Article 8 is the health insurance deductible expendable trust fund.
I'll do that one, I guess. That's an easy one.
Article 9 is the fire prevention expendable trust fund, and that is to take money out of the UFB to put into it.
So that's the loading the money in.
That's the loading
and
in.
the intent is to take,
Right.
I'll do both of those are easy ones.
So you got Article 9, John?
And 10. So 10 is the taking
Yeah,
out.
it's a discussion later.
Okay, warrant Article 11 is the design, engineering, and architectural fees. That's the 166, 150.
That's for the station, so.
Yes.
I don't mind doing that, I mean.
Oh, that was a lot,
That was the budget committee
That was
recommendation.
the budget committee recommendation.
Yeah.
Either Paul, John or
Either one.
we could tag team it.
Well, warrant Article 12 is adding to the land and building fund.
I'll take the 11.
That's fine. Put me down for.
Put you down for 12.
Sure.
Article 13 is the communications tower expendable trust fund to be set up.
I'll take that one.
Article 14 is to establish the contingency fund. That's our once-a-year housekeeping.
Which,
That's like the,
Okay.
I have a feeling you might have some questions come up on that one. People wanting to shrink it a little bit or having
I
better
don't think they
understanding
can, I
of.
think it's a set.
well, it's, the maximum is set by the RSA
Yeah.
at 1% of the previous year's operating budget.
So that last year, I believe that was one of the topics that they, just to consider ahead of time.
This would be one that I would suggest that we don't try and reduce
Yes.
because we reduce the apparatus and equipment maintenance and,
Yeah, that
as we
one,
know,
yeah.
by a significant more than what I feel comfortable with. And as we know, the apparatus is, all of it's getting older. And engine one, once we sign a contract with something, it's still gonna take another 14 months before that thing
So
shows
we
up.
won't get that until 24. So have we had
It'll-
any big
it'll
repairs?
be- Excuse me?
Have we had any big repairs yet this year?
Yeah, we just, the front suck on engine 3 had to be repaired.
The front what?
The front suction.
Right, so- all right, I just want to make sure I'm hearing these things.
Sorry, I used a little bit of slang there.
That's that big piece in the middle of the thing that.
Yeah, with the swivel
Intake,
neck,
yeah.
loose neck, yeah, it rusted out, so we had to have that repaired.
No.
It was one of the older ones made out of cast iron. So, and it may rust out again, but it's good for now.
They're from road salt, or is that just from the road? From the
Those
use-
things, if, they just tend to rust.
Well, I know
because
our
of the
water is very, our water in town is very corrosive.
Yes, and so,
Got that on my furnace.
all the fire trucks throughout my entire career, if anything that's used, the black iron pipe, they rust.
Well, yeah,
The
black iron
plumbing's
pipe.
rust. So the newer engines are mostly plumbed with stainless steel now, so that problem is eliminated.
Just look at what happened in Manchester, was it almost $1.5 million to
Yeah.
repair 2 lines?
The new truck they got is already in service and they haven't even started getting the factory training on it yet.
Yeah.
In Manchester?
Yeah,
What it was a ladder and an engine.
it was the ladder anyways. I was teaching some of the Manchester guys over the weekend, they showed me pictures of it. It's already in service.
And that new one's a very complicated.
Yes, it is.
piece
It's
of operating.
articulating.
135-foot
okay.
Bronto.
Crash test.
Pretty impressive.
Okay, we'll move on. Warrant Article 7.
7. So, after the public hearing we had on warrant Article 7 last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, I received a lot of comment about that and concerns. Mainly, the biggest concerns that I heard, concern by a few people was that they were afraid that if somebody wanted to, at district meeting, they could amend the number that the commission recommended for the article that year to come out of the apparatus and basically drain the apparatus and equipment fund. So their concern was maybe the best avenue would be to withdraw that article this year and bring it back next year, and to see if we can get an attorney to craft it in such a manner that it would be very difficult to put that, still go with what the commissioners would still come up with an article in an amount every year to go towards a bond payment, but make it very difficult to change the number more than what the commissioners
Yeah,
recommending.
can you always
in
say
fear
not
of-
to exceed X amount?
Yeah, in fear of jeopardizing the fund, because maybe next year there'll be an engine purchase that will be needed, or an ambulance, and if they drain the fund, then that purchase wouldn't be able to be made without going, borrowing. And in my conversations with folks, from Scott at the public hearing, he was very concerned about, they love having the apparatus and equipment fund, and for us to be able to buy equipment when we need it for cash and not having to go out to borrow. But there's fears out there that if the warrant article goes in as it's printed, anybody can amend the amount, and if they have enough people in the audience to go back them, they can wreck that fund. And so, I guess I share now that those concerns have been brought up, I share those concerns, and I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Well, didn't it say in there, though, it would have to be approved by the fire commissioners?
Yes. So the warrant article would be a warrant article from the commissioners to withdraw, say, $30,000 out of it,
The
and
apparatus
to go
number.
towards, to reduce a
Yeah.
bond payment out of the tax rate. Well, if there was somebody at the district meeting that says, oh, I see you have $800,000 in there, you can only take out 30, I want you to take out 600,000. And if they have enough people at the district meeting, they could amend that and then vote the 600,000. And then the next year, when we're supposed to buy an ambulance that costs 300,000, we can't. We have to borrow,
Yeah, I think.
or put the purchase off. And
That was a concern for me.
we pretty much run our equipment right to the last spot before we replace them. It's not like we had much grace period in between.
So I think it's.
So I agree, I think that's a good point that Scott Davis brought it up as well. That maybe we should withdraw the article and see if we can get it worded better so that it would be very difficult to override the commissioner's recommendation.
So currently it's written that it can only be used on apparatus. We were
Correct.
talking about adjusting it to also include the building around the apparatus for maintaining and stuff like that, or what was the?
The intent was to use the additional funds to go towards bonds or loans or promissory notes towards construction or renovations or additions to a building.
Keep it back with the apparatus, it's safer, in my opinion. It's just one.
And I understand, I think the apparatus and equipment fund can support some funding every year towards a bond payment, but that's something that we have to look at every single year and come up with that number very carefully. And I just, after those people brought those concerns up, I was equally concerned. And I think that we probably, if we can just withdraw it at, when it's brought up at district meetings, that we'd like to withdraw it and bring it back next year because we have concerns about the wording.
We're trying to save up every year, and then someone can just come in and say,
Yeah,
nope, I want to pay $500,000.
They could do that,
They
if
could.
they had the votes.
Yeah, but I don't want to leave that to temptation. Like, that was scary, because then all of a sudden now we're going to have to ask for a bond to buy an ambulance or an engine.
Yes,
I mean,
which would have to be a 2/3 vote at that point if you have to bond it. And then what if you don't get it? And you need that engine really badly, or that ambulance really badly? I mean, it would put us in a predicament that I guess we
Never mind
didn't really
response
think
time.
through all the way, but that's why we have public
Never mind
hearings.
response time, we can't respond.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the iron out to do it, we can't do it. So, what do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I don't want to get caught in that spot there, so maybe we should amend it then.
I think we have
Take it
to.
out, take it right out. We can't take it out, can we?
No, it's already been posted. So since it's been posted, it has to come to the floor. And you can play it two ways. You can let it go to vote and see what happens, or you can table it. But if you table it, it can always be brought back up
Can
that
we-
same night.
Can it be withdrawn?
No.
No,
It
in
cannot be
Massachusetts, it can be withdrawn, but not in New Hampshire.
Yeah, but there's a type of tabling where it can't be brought up at the same meeting.
That is true, but I don't know.
There it is.
There is.
That would be a Kent Fenimore question.
Yeah,
Well,
we used to call it indefinite postponement.
Indefinitely, I think, or
Or can you say that you'd like to table it until next year? Would that work?
I think we should get clarification from the moderator so that we know. So we use the proper verbiage.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should talk to Steve Buckley at New Hampshire Municipal. He's the one that's always writing articles about
Yes,
that.
he is.
He's the lawyer.
And they give us free advice,
Yes,
so.
well, we belong to them, so,
Yeah,
Are you
I
going
think
to
that-
contact him, Chief?
yes, I will.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Get the legalese.
So we might need, never mind.
What?
Yeah, we might need to meet on the 12th anyways now.
You can,
Or does that have to be something that we do
you
after?
can meet at the town meeting and make a decision there, because
Yes.
it's posted.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a special meeting beforehand.
But do we have to open the meeting to discuss it? So I believe any discussions amongst us has to be under open meeting,
It
closed
does.
meeting, so we would have to announce to the public, we are opening the meeting to discuss this.
You could meet before the district meeting.
Yeah, we could post it like.
Yeah, post, post a half hour prior
Yeah.
for the commissioners to
What
meet.
time's the meeting? 7?
7.
Yeah, it's a later one, which is nice.
7,
Yes.
if I leave work at 5,
You might be
I
there by
get there at
8.
6. I can do as early as 6. Oh my, I have Thursdays off.
It might be as easy as we get an answer and shoot, the chief shoots out an email that takes care of it all.
Yeah.
And then all we have to do is just write it up and hand it to
Yep.
the one speaking to it at district meeting, Paul.
There, well, thank you.
Yeah, I'd say first let's get a reply from
Absolutely.
the phone a friend first,
Yes.
and then see if we need to.
Yeah.
So I like that option.
All right, thank you.
Okay, new business. Safety grant.
Safer grant.
So, again, this year, the Safer Grant application. Safer Grant is a grant where that if I apply for it and if we receive the grant is used to hire new full-time firefighters. And the funding for opportunity notice hasn't come out yet, but using last year's funding for notice, it's a 3-year grant, and in the first year of the grant, the federal government pays 75% of all salary and benefit costs. The second year of the grant is additional 75% of all costs, and the third year of the grant is 35% of all salary costs of what it cost for the first year of that.
So how much was it for the first year they'll pay?
75, 75, 35.
Wow.
This is an opportunity for the fire district. If is supported by the commissioners, I can file for this grant. And if we receive the grant, we can hire additional firefighters at a savings that the district would bear and still receive the benefit of having the additional personnel. This grant cannot be used for personnel that is already hired once the grant is awarded or funded. So, because that would be supplanting, and which is not allowed. Sorry?
It's frowned upon.
Seriously frowned upon. So the first year cost for a firefighter is, as you know, around $90,000 currently. That includes their health benefits, their pension, their vacation time, and their salary. Some of that's also uniforms and equipment, but uniforms and equipment are not allowed as an expense, so we would still incur those costs. The health insurance cost reimbursement is an average of what the entire department's annual cost for insurance is over the number of people in the insurance program. So if we hired somebody that was a single, we would still be reimbursed higher than a single rate for insurance because we have additional people that are on a family plan or a dual plan. So if it's $90,000 and we get 75% reimbursement for that $90,000, that employee is only going to cost us around less than $20,000 for the first year, our employees, depending upon how many we were awarded. I think it's, so the savings is tremendous, and you get the service of those employees and the benefits of those employees while they're here for that. There is no requirement to keep those employees once the grant is expired, which has been a requirement in the past, but again, I don't know if that's going to be this year because I'm using last year's notice as information. This district badly needs additional employees to help with the workload that we have. I know some people have differing opinions on that, and maybe those opinions are due to the cost of those employees, and that's why their opinion is not to hire new employees. But I think if you compare us to other fire departments in our area, you'll see that the workload placed upon our employees is much higher by a lot than the other fire departments around here per employee. If we awarded this grant, it would be both a benefit to the fire department, the firefighters, but mostly it would be a benefit to the community and the citizens that we serve, being able to provide a service and mostly a more timely response for that second ambulance on a full-time basis rather than a part-time basis. And I'd be curious to hear what you guys think about that opportunity.
Let's say you applied for that this year. When are the funds available?
So, the application period, from what I understand currently, it's an application that's a 30-day application period that starts either, they haven't announced it yet, but at the end of March, we'll say April 1st. So at the end of April, the application has to be in. Then the application is reviewed by a group of peer reviewers, and that can take 2 to 3 months, and then they start making awards. And the awards usually go for 2 or 3 months. Every week, or every 2 weeks, they announce a bunch of awards. And from the date of the award, you have 180 days to hire the personnel that you were awarded. And if you haven't hired the personnel within that 180 days, at 180 days, your grant period, 3-year grant period starts anyways. If you want to hire the person, if you've got your personnel picked out before the 180 days is up, you ask the feds if you can start earlier rather than waiting the full 180, and that's okay. But then that's when your 3-year period starts at that point.
So the 75% that it pays is based on, say for instance, this year's budget. In our budget, we don't have new staff starting until July 1st.
That's correct.
So would this be 75% of 6 months?
It wouldn't be those firefighters because...
No, I'm saying for next year. So
So,
would these be firefighters that we would hire on effective January 1st next year, where we don't have that budget approved? And what happens if at the district meeting in 2021, it's not approved?
so what would happen is, so if you're given the period that I'm looking at, say you go from the end of April, and then you have 5 or 6 months before you're awarded the grant. So from April, you had 5 more months, now you're into October, November. We still have to go through a hiring process. That's probably gonna, we had doing a month of advertising usually, at least. If there's other, one of the things we're looking at, there's other departments that are gonna be hiring at the same time. Maybe we have one great big hiring process, and then we kind of pick from that candidate. Everybody gets a turn picking from the candidates. Draft. Like a draft, yep. And I think we would probably get past the vote at district meeting to, have the match in the budget before we actually would have to hire the people and have them come on board.
So if the budget got approved, I want to get this straight. You put in for 2 guys this year. If the budget is passed in 2 weeks, that grant is no good for them guys.
Correct. That's correct.
So why wouldn't you wait and not hire guys if you want 2 more guys and wait for the grant so we see if we get approved? So now, what you're doing though is you're hiring 2 more guys, then you're going to hire another 2 guys, so that makes 4. To me, that's a little deceiving to let people, as long as people understand that, I wouldn't approve it. Because now you're getting 4. You're not asking for 2, you're asking for 4.
I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, there's no guarantees. And we need the personnel now.
And if you're gonna, if the budget does pass and you get 2 guys, then the grant is irrelevant. I mean, Because because within that certain time, you're gonna 2 more guys. And I understand it's probably a good deal, but it would be a better deal. It would be a better deal for us to wait and apply for the grant. And I know it's another year, but
I don't agree, because I still think, even though the budget committee is recommending 2, I still believe we need 4, at the bare minimum. And if you want to come down to brass tacks, we should be operating with 6 or 7 guys per shift. And I know some people may disagree with me with that, but I have almost 40 years of experience telling me that that's what we should be doing.
If we had a much larger district budget, I might see that. But once again, it's dollars versus the cost and what we can put out for money.
And I
If we had
understand
that
that's why
incoming
we
money,
have-
I'd give you 6 people per shift. If I had a influx of commercial money and all that, that taxes weren't taxing people out. But based on what we are,
And I understand that as well, and that's why we have 3 or maybe 4 people if the budget at that
Right.
district meeting passes.
for daytime, correct?
But still, that doesn't change the fact of what I think we really should be having and operating with. And if we can get closer to that number using grants, I don't see where it doesn't. It's something that would be a benefit to the community, and at the same time, if we did get the grant and the funding wasn't approved at the following district meeting, we could always say no, and not hire the additional personnel and take the money back. And we wouldn't have spent any of the money anyways.
you're talking another $360,000 that will end up. And I know you're gonna get, and that's not really true, but because of the grant, if you awarded the grant, you'd get that. But people have to understand that that's what it's gonna come to eventually.
Eventually,
I mean, after the 3 years are up, that's what you're gonna, another 300 or more. It's gonna be more than that.
Well, no,
Well, yeah.
it would be, no, because if we go for 2, we hire, this year's budget happens, goes. Next year, does that have to be for 2020 hires, or is it gonna be for 2021 hires?
so the grant can be how, whenever you get the award, you have 180 days from that point to
What's the
hire.
earliest that we would get an award?
Wouldn't happen this year.
Probably like
No,
September,
probably,
Maybe August.
I'm thinking September at the earliest, probably. So you'd have 6 months from September.
so you would really have to have those people hired before district meeting next year.
Yes. September, October, November.
And there's a chance that those people could not be, those positions could not be approved at district meeting, then what? I guess that's my ultimate question.
That's, depending upon when the grant is awarded. If it is in September, then we're running the risk of not being able to have a district meeting beforehand. I might also say that though the federal government says one thing about dates, this grant period is for federal fiscal year 2019, which ended last September. So they keep falling further and further and further behind on the fiscal years of these grants, and they say they want to open it March 1st or April 1st, the grant period, and then close at the end of April. And maybe that happens, and they say, yes, and we want to start awarding them in 3 months. It never happens. The AFG grants, they say, okay, we're going to start the application process in February, and we'll start issuing in June. It never happens. It's usually September or October by the time they start issuing grants. It's just...
Would our apparatus equipment fund $1.5 million, what is it, 1.5 million, is that gonna hurt our opportunity? I say, oh, you've got some flushing cash.
Actually, if we vote the new engine and the SEDAs, it goes through the
Right,
district
and that's
meeting,
gonna sort out
those funds will be accounted for,
Yeah.
and then it'll make it much more attractive for us to apply for a grant.
Right, 'cause you're
That the money's,
taking out almost $1 million.
it's accounted for, it's, you know,
Encumbered. It's dedicated, yeah.
Yeah, well, you're taking out $1 million, now you're down to 500,000, which, okay, now they're not so well
And
off.
next year, it's accounted for an ambulance. We have it in our capital
Right.
improvement program that we have to buy a new ambulance next year. So that's all written into the grant to show them that, you know, maybe if the grant is written, there'll only be around 500,000 in it. And we have a capital improvement program. The program calls for an ambulance, and I don't know if I have one here. The ambulance is budgeted,
150 or something.
2021 for $298,895 in the budget. So that's going to bring it down to, with everything else that we're going to spending, at the end of 2021, we'll have $243,188 if all goes as planned.
Does-
So that's, it's good that we saved the money, but we also show that we spent it on what we intended to spend it on. And we always have spent it on what we've always intended in spending it on. And that, but all that's part of the narrative of how you write it out and how you explain how all this happens. So I can apply for the positions.
Now, if you applied for it, can we deny it?
Yes.
Yeah. When is the deadline to apply for it?
I don't know because they haven't
Okay.
announced it yet.
So,
It's usually 30 days.
So it hasn't been
32
posted yet,
Has not been.
so we're not
posted.
even in the window yet.
No.
My 2 cents to the commissioners is we go for the 2 positions in the budget, as is, don't apply for it yet. And if the townspeople go for it, then that's what they get. If they choose to, if for some reason it gets shot down, then I might support going for the 2 positions that way with a discount. But it's the choice of that or saying, oh, don't go for the 2 and go. That's the way I'm looking at it. It's like we go for what the current plan is of the 2 additional people to get you your daytime staffing up to 4 to where we're going. I'm not comfortable adding on 2 additional people after that with the grant. I was very much on the fence of adding the 2 additional people for the daytime when we're having our influx of higher amount of calls and things like that. And that's why I definitely hem and hawed, but support that additional daytime person to operate 2 apparatus at minimal manning. Absolutely, you're talking a minimal man. I recognize that. But you have the potential there of an engine and an ambulance showing up and able to do at least something during the day when you don't have the call force. And I understand the shortage of the call force, absolutely. We've discussed that and seen the numbers and all that. Down the road, I mean, going to 4 around the clock, I think taxpayers will be up in arms. And we answer to them. That's just where I stand on it.
Sure, we do answer to them, but I think it would be appropriate for us to ask them too.
Yeah.
And not eliminate the possibility of it happening without asking them.
I'm not opposed to that, the public's opinion,
I
but
mean, ask them about this here.
No, I meant, like, if we were awarded the grant, giving the public an opportunity to have a vote in whether we fund the match or not. And then, if it doesn't go that way, then we don't hire them. We give the grant back. But if the district meeting votes to say, yes, we would, we want to take those persons and improve our service 24/7, then
What's going to happen though is they're going to say, you know, you want to hire 2 guys this year. Let's postpone it and wait till next year and apply for the grant and see if we get it. That's what's going to happen.
Mhm. That's exactly,
Yeah.
their wallets are gonna talk.
Yeah.
Agreed.
There's gonna be some opposition about hiring guys. I mean, it's already been talked about. I've heard it from several people. And you know, when they hear that it's $180,000 or more every year for 2 more people, and you start saying, well, we can get a grant, and now we got 4 people, and we're talking $360,000, and I know you got a grant that's gonna take care of quite a bit of it for a couple of years. It's a lot of money.
But the problem with the grant, it's not a guarantee.
I know it's not a
And
guarantee.
it's highly, highly competitive.
Yeah, I understand.
That's why I still say go with the current budget of the 2 people and not put all the eggs into that basket for the grant.
Because you can write a perfect application. I know people that have written perfect applications and been turned down. The need has been clearly defined, and the goals that the FEMA is looking for in the achieving of this grant has been clearly defined in the application. The funding is clearly defined, and they score very highly, but they still don't get awarded the grant, and still the need for the personnel is still there. And really, who you're hurting as the citizens and residents of the community that need the service.
And it's, nah, don't bring that up. The only thing is, you know, we're asking for a lot. We're asking for a fire station next year. Now, and you're asking for 2 more men this year. And next year you want, there again, if you get a grant, you got a grant to help pay for that. But there again, another thing added on. I mean, people, you can't just keep wanting, if you found ways to cut back, like the overtime, if there was a way you could hire 2 more people and cut out the overtime, I'd be for it 100%. 100%. The overtime is just astronomical here, astronomical. It is.
Technically, overtime is cheaper than personnel, because you're not paying any benefits for them. But you can't use overtime all the time because you burn your personnel out.
Well, there must be, to rotate or do something so you don't
And
do the
grants don't
overtime.
fund overtime.
But how many of your firefighters on their off-shift time are actually doing work with other departments or stewards or something like that? In the fire service, unfortunately, because it is a lower paying income for what they do, a lot of firefighters are dual full-time employees, whether they're per diems with Gilmanton, or they're stewards, or they work in the hospital ED on their off time.
We don't have any.
Oh, here in Tilton, you don't have the people double dip or
We
working
don't,
on
none
that.
of our career firefighters are
Okay.
all our per diem firefighters anywhere else.
Okay, that's
And well, Tim
Well,
is, yes.
he's a call
He's national
firefighter in Guilford, but
At this point in time, no.
but a lot of them work like the fire academies or the ED, the emergency departments, or stewards or things like that when they're that off shift time.
We really don't.
No, we don't.
Oh wow. Okay, that's an abnormal
Maybe
situation,
we pay
which
you
is
too
good.
much.
No.
No.
We have one that's a nurse.
yeah,
Yes.
Sean works
That
at the vet's
at the
home
vet- at the vet's home.
part-time.
One swings a hammer.
A couple of them swing hammers,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
that's
they're not working at other fire departments.
okay. That's abnormal. That's unusual because a lot of times they're working ambulance
10 years
service
ago,
or
that's how it
something.
was, before everybody had
Yes.
families, that's how it was.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Nick doesn't do anything. No.
No, that's abnormal. So it's good.
Like I said, it was like that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings on this grant. I mean, to even bring it up before the meeting, if you bring it up in the meeting, people are going to speak with their wallets immediately and say no to the 2 people and go for the government support of that.
By the time the meeting comes, we still won't have a date for an application period for us to even
Right,
take place.
but if you get the 2 people on, then you've got the 2 people. If you don't, then I would support you going for the grant at that point.
I mean,
Because
it
that
only
would,
makes sense. to
I
do
think,
that.
I think we need to not discuss it until we know the results of the district meeting, because it could change our strategy.
Well, We can talk about it next month.
Yep.
I mean, and
That's
then
fair.
by
I
then,
understand where you're coming from, we'll just talk about it
I think
next
that's
month.
just,
I think the strategy in the presentation, it's gonna muddy the water with the public real fast if it comes up.
well, I think that was more for,
Absolutely.
I think that was more for our information
But
than for.
it's for the public and all that, but if it was to be discussed at the meeting, it would really
yeah.
muddy the budget
We're gonna
fast. So next month, definitely we relook at it.
We're gonna
I'm
confuse
in
people
favor
with
of that
fashion and the
anyways.
1040 easy.
Which is to reaffirm investment policy.
But when the auditors did our audit, they explained that, they noted that we're supposed to do this every year.
Okay.
And so when I came over tonight, I gave Tim a copy, he's our treasurer, and he is in the process of reviewing it, and if you would like to take it and review it, and then revisit it next week, Tim will have his recommendations by then, if he has any, and you'll have had a chance to review it again.
Did the auditor have any noted
No.
areas of suggestion?
No,
Okay, so
They
it's more
just-
of a just a
it's more of
renewal.
renewal, you
Yep.
know, this is, you're supposed to do this every year.
Yep.
Did you do it? I'm like, no,
Right.
but we will be.
Is it a law to do it every year?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have to review it every year.
And what is the cost to do that? I'm
It
telling
doesn't,
you.
it doesn't cost us
You
anything,
guys
you
have
guys
to
have to
every
do it.
year.
Oh, okay.
The Board of
Right.
Commissioners.
So we have to do it.
You
Okay.
have to do it,
Right.
I
the Board of
understand.
Commissioners have to do it,
All right.
and,
Whereas this is like 2 years old at the current signing, we need to sign it and that will get us good for
Okay.
the next year, pending there's no changes, or if there is a change,
Right,
discuss what they
right,
are.
we'll see what the treasurer has for recommendations, and if he doesn't have anything, we'll, you know, I'll just type up a cover sheet that says, you know,
Yep.
reviewed and,
Okay.
New names on it.
right.
2 out of 3. Oh, he stays.
Okay, let's move on. Review the minutes, February 4th, 2020. Everybody read them?
Sure.
Okay. So make a motion to approve the minutes of February 4th, 2020.
I'll second it.
Then moving second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. February 10th, 2020, review the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of February 10th, 2020.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Then moving second. All those in favor?
Aye.
My voice is
Any other business? Review and sign the manifest. Next meeting, April 7th, 2020.
Well, actually, is it April 7th, or actually the big meeting is our next meeting?
Yeah, but I only put regular meetings on.
Okay, only regular, okay.
Only regular. On your calendar that I send out every month, that has everything else that you guys are doing.
Okay. All right.
Any
Good
oth-
point, though.
Any other questions?
No, just signing manifests, I still got
You got
2.
any questions, Eric?
No.
I'll make a motion. We adjourn at 6:48, 49. Actually, no, actually, it's 50, 49, 56, 53.
No, wait a minute.
That's the same,
That's,
6:54.
yeah, 6:54. 6:54,
6:54.
yes, according to that clock.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Manifest, please.
Actually, it was
Hit the red
6:57.
button.
It was 6:57.
Red button.
Red button.
Bye. Have a nice day.
I'll take one of the